Hello, YouTube. All right. As you can see, we are on the road. I just got off work from my cleaning job and am heading out to the second job. And thought I would take advantage of this time to talk a little bit to you guys until I get into the outer skirts of Orlando. Although, you know what? I should have had my GPS running. I don't know if the GPS is still running. I didn't get out of it, but it's apparently turned off right now. But I'm going to need it when I get up to Orlando. Think. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to sign off when I get to a certain area because I'm going to need the GPS because I forgot the roads and they've changed the roads in Orlando. But anyhow, if you're getting this message, the world is still intact. And I think things are starting to fall back into place. I don't know if you guys have been seeing the broadcasts coming out from China. Things are starting to actually return somewhat to normal over there. So it looks like their drastic lockdown, you know, the quarantine that they put themselves under, the nation did, has been effective in stopping the spread. So that's positive hope, positive news, which means that everybody that's quarantined right now, you know, is contributing towards ending this crisis. But what I find interesting about the whole thing is perspectives are going to certainly change after this event. You know, jobs that weren't considered that important are now suddenly going to become very important. I don't know if you've seen, but jobs where there were menial jobs, you know, jobs that they felt anybody could do, those are the jobs that's keeping society alive and going on right now. Jobs like stockers, food stockers at Walmart, the toilet paper dude. You know, these are people who normally get like barely above minimum wage, okay? So I'm hoping that after an incident like this, a crisis like this, that people give the janitors, you know, a little bit more respect. These are the people that are actually trying to keep the germs and stuff under control. That they pay, you know, and treat the Walmart and Publix and all the other food stockers better and pay them appropriately. Because if not for those people, there would be no supplies out on the shelves. Also, even people in the food industry, you know, the restaurants and maybe even the fast foods, you know, providing food. Because even though a lot of jobs, like those in retail and stuff, other than online, maybe not working, and a lot of other jobs maybe not working or working remotely, certain jobs, people have to continue to go in. And I know we always had respect for like the police, the firemen, the nurses, the doctors. Those are the frontline people, okay? But in a worldwide incident like this, we got to see how important the supporting jobs, the side jobs, as menial as even the garbage pickup man. You know, if the garbage dude stopped picking up trash, can you imagine what would have happened? So certain jobs that were deemed not critical, not important, are actually extremely important to keeping society moving, keeping society, because otherwise things would fall apart very rapidly. If all the stockers, the Walmart employees had just walked off and quit, it would have been total disaster. I just want you to think about that. So I'm hoping that society as a whole, you know, learns from this big lesson. Not that we're out of the woods. I think America still has issues with understanding the concept of quarantining and controlling the situation. Being in Florida, I don't know if you guys saw in the news, spring break is going on, and all the young people are behaving like idiots. They're flooding Florida beaches. All these kids, college kids, are traveling into Florida, a hot spot for the coronavirus, and then heading to mingle on the beaches. They were literally packing the beaches like regular spring break as if nothing was going on, because they feel they are immune. Well, one, they're not immune. Two, if it doesn't kill them, they can still carry it back and spread it all along the whole route that they traveled on, all the way back to their families. And it's irresponsible to think that because you're young, and it most likely won't affect you because you're healthy, that you can just ignore it and carry it and keep spreading it. So, my urgent message to everyone watching this and following anything along is try to self-quarantine. Limit your movements. I would rather not have to go into this job right now, but I do need to go in to talk to them to, try to get some stuff done. But I generally try to work remotely with this second job because I'm doing a lot of web stuff and going to be doing some online promotions for them. Having to travel to Orlando, obviously, is a danger. I try not to get out unless I have to get gas or something, which I do. I will need gas. And also just to meet with them to talk to the boss and see what all he needs done and what I can do. So basically, try to quarantine because the virus supposedly has an incubation period of up to 2 weeks. That's when it's going to come show itself. So if everybody would quarantine right away, within 2 to 3 weeks, I would say a month, the whole thing could be over because it won't spread. The people who have it, they will by then have gotten sick enough that they're in the ER dying or dead. Apparently it can kill within 2 weeks. What they're talking about the incubation period, there was a story about some guy, a young guy, I think he was like in his 30s, like 34 or something. And he went to Disney World here in Florida. And within 2 weeks, of showing the symptoms, he's dead. And they were saying, well, but he seemed pretty healthy. And they said, well, what had happened when he was a kid, he had asthma. As a kid, even though it's, he doesn't have it as an adult, but that puts him at high risk. Just so you're aware, all the young people that say, well, I'm fine, I'm healthy. You really don't know until something like this hits you and then affects you that you were actually one of the vulnerable ones. And even if you weren't, because he traveled back on the airplane and stuff from Florida, he infected all those people at the airport, on the airplane, and they're taking it to their cities. You understand what I'm saying? And that's just one case. And here we have the spring breakers coming in from out of state to spread the virus back to all the other states again, which to me is just ridiculous. But that's what's going on right now. As far as I understand, I took a quick glance at the news. I think the governor of Florida is declaring the beaches closed now, which sucks. Because the beach is one of the places I go to kind of calm down. But they're closing the beaches because all the spring breakers are coming in and they're packing it. And then they're walking around intermingling and just potentially keeping the virus alive. And every time that kind of stuff happens, that clock, that 2 or 3 week quarantine gets reset back to 0 days. You got to start all over again. So, if you can, try to observe the quarantine. If you're in a house, please try to observe the quarantine. If you're in a van, you don't really have much choice, but try not to go around people. I know after my experience last night at Walmart, I am going to try to stay away from that place as long as possible. It was horrendous. I had that one guy just coughing all over me. I had to do everything to contain myself from yelling at him, saying, dude, stop coughing on me. But, I figured he had some mental issues, like mentally not there, So I just kept my mouth shut. And I was going to offer him a cough drop, but I didn't have one on me, So try to maintain your distance from people if you can. Don't get up close to people. Kind of keep your distance. I think it's okay to talk and stuff, but stand far away if you can. And if you can teleconference and do stuff, that kind of stuff. But they've already said all that. I'm not going to repeat all the stuff that you can hear on the news, unless you're living in a cave and you don't know. But basically, try not to touch other people. Try not to be around other people, other than, like the people you're already with, like your family. Because if one of you has it, pretty much your whole family has it. And I'm not talking about just the coronavirus. I'm talking about the flu or whatever else is going around. You know, the idea is just to keep whatever it is localized to that one area so that it doesn't spread to 5 million other people. And then either that person will recover or that person will die. You know, it's that simple. Now, China was showing images of themselves, you know, people are starting to return back to work, which means production of all the stuff. I know that in America, you see all that negative stuff about China and wares from China and stuff. But now that you've seen what happens when China shuts down, the rest of the world cannot function, not just America. The entire world cannot function without China. China produces so much goods and stuff for everybody. So unless all the countries, you know, start producing things for themselves, which it looks like they may start trying to do, but it's hard to do that because, you know, you don't have all the factories and stuff set up for that. It's all in China. So I hope that either countries stop picking on China, okay, because you obviously depend on them. Because when China shut down, you couldn't even get toilet paper. You know what I'm saying? And all the surgical masks and all that stuff that you have in the hospitals, guess where that came from? Yeah, when China shut down, all those goods, all those things, all the pharmaceuticals, all that medicine, that came from China, just so you know. So, you know, don't be putting down the Chinese. But the other thing is maybe work on our own, you know, infrastructure. It might not be a good idea to put everything onto China or one spot in the whole world so that when something happens to that country, your country's screwed. Not just your country, the whole world is screwed. You know, so I know people are going to be changing their thinking as far as governments and stuff. But I hope that, you know, assuming that all the other countries follow the path that China's going on right now, which means their situation's nearly ending. It's returning to some normalcy over there. So if everybody quarantines like China did and can return to some normalcy, hopefully people learn from this lesson and have some stockpile. You know, I mean, I'm not saying like be a prepper or anything, because obviously the preppers would not survive if this was a real situation. I would say I could survive for 2 months. Yeah, and then what? If China's dead and not producing stuff and sending stuff, what are you going to do? You have nothing left. You know, you use up all the supplies that you stockpiled. So if you really want to prep, learn how to hunt, learn how to grow food, learn how to do things for yourself. That's the real way to prep. You know, if you want to be a survivalist. But otherwise, you're just preparing for an emergency, and you're hoping that society can pick itself back up and resume somewhat. But I know that forever things will be changed, because this was the first huge pandemic in my lifetime. You know, I was reading that they had a couple of small pandemics, but you know, like the SARS and the other outbreaks, but it was never like this, where they shut down the whole country, you know, and not just our country, but the world. So I suspect this is going to be an ongoing thing. This is not a one-time thing. Once something like this has happened, expect it to keep happening. This shouldn't be something that you're hearing that should be scaring you. It should be a wake-up call to get yourself ready. So whatever you saw, wherever you saw you had issues with during this go-round, you want to make sure you prepare by next go-round. So, you know, for me, I think that, especially since now I'm working with the solar company and stuff, I'm going to try to make myself totally off-grid capable. You know, like right now I still depend on gasoline to make electricity because of driving and using the alternator, or even running a generator. So I'm looking towards going totally off with solar. Might even try some alternatives too, like wind and other stuff like that. But because of me being associated with the Wholesale, the solar wholesale company, Solar Wholesale LLC, basically, you know, I can try to do some experiments if the boss, you know, okays the projects. So use the time when the United States recovers and shipping returns back to normal to get materials that you're going to need, like to build your systems and stuff. I don't know about building a system for permanent survival, but build a system that will at least last you, long enough, maybe a month or 2 or 3, where you're totally off-grid capable. And then if you end up liking that and being able to do it, heck, maybe you can stay off-grid, But I think the way this whole incident played out shows it's like we all got caught with our pants down, everybody. Nobody was really ready, because people had in their mind how a pandemic would occur and how people would react. But they couldn't predict that toilet paper would be the biggest thing for a pandemic. And the funny thing is, the toilet paper has nothing to do with the coronavirus, really. Think about it. You would have thought there would have been a run on certain items, but toilet paper would not have been on that list. And yet it was the one thing that stood out for this entire weird thing. Now, I do have a question. If you're halfway around the world, if you're in another country right now and watching this video, did you guys have toilet paper issues? Or is this only an American thing? I have to wonder how the people in different countries responded. If what I saw in America, wow, look at all the people in Orlando on quarantine. You can see what the problem is, right? We are under quarantine, and look how many cars there are, and we are not in Orlando yet. I'm about to hit Orlando here soon, so you can see what quarantine in Orlando looks like. And I'm willing to bet it's not going to be quarantined. It's going to be full of people. Like even myself here, heading over to my boss to go talk to him. Let's see, somebody was telling me, Jimmy says that their friend in Australia says they're having the same panic buying there too. So if you see this kind of pattern, then you notice it's not an American thing, it's not a whatever thing, it's a worldwide, it's a human thing. I will tell you one thing that I'm hoping people get out of all this is that we are one world. We are humans on one planet, one world. Regardless of how you look, regardless of what language you speak, we are one race. And the race could have gotten wiped out so quickly. And I'm not talking about just from the virus. I'm talking about from the panic. How people were treating each other. Whole countries were turning away buses full of their own people or airplanes or whatever, not letting them land, not letting them come in. And this is the, quote, civilized world. But I did see some encouraging signs, like you guys heard about the Italians all playing music and stuff. And apparently Spain's doing the same thing. The Spaniards are, reconnecting. I don't know if they were already connected. See, American culture in the 50s and 60s, I think, people were a little bit closer. They had picnics. They had town fairs, city fairs, and things like that, county fairs. But as time has gone on, America became more disconnected to the point where a lot of neighborhoods, people don't even know the neighbor living across the street from them. Tell me that's not crazy. You might know the people right next to you, to your left and to your right, but you don't know that other house, just 1 or 2 houses down. So that's how life has become in America. But I'm hoping that something like this magnitude will bring people back closer together, where they actually take the time to know one another and to try to help one another, instead of you're living in a big huge area with a bunch of people and you know nobody. The only people you know are on Facebook or on YouTube, and I think one of the reasons like Facebook or YouTube or Instagram is popular is people feel that they know that person on the other end. Like even myself here, being on this channel, I know a lot of people feel they know me personally because I share a lot of personal information, which is a danger, by the way, because I have all those weirdos stalking me. But basically, what do you really know? You only know, somebody for 10, 15 minutes, whatever they choose to broadcast. And people could even be fake, and putting stuff up there that's not even true. I mean, it's like a show. They just put on something because that's what they want you to see. Now, I have had to make decisions like that during the 4 years of broadcast on this channel, and generally I show pretty much things as they are, which sometimes looks really bad for me, but that's how it is. And the reason I do that is I want people to see what it's really like. And not this made for YouTube, made for views, or made to look good, or made to look glamorous, or whatever. So the reality is what it is. And with the current situation that's been going on with the world, I think people are waking up to their own reality and their own weaknesses, and learning exactly what they need to do and what they need to focus on. If this thing actually pans out the way it did in China, where all the countries one by one, quarantined themselves completely, and then return back to normal. I can tell you, looking at all the people here outside Orlando, and once I get to Orlando, this is not going to happen in America very fast. This is going to be long and drawn out if this is what it looks like to be quarantined in America. This is ridiculous. Of course, I myself am driving to work. You see what the problem is here. See, I'm not driving to Orlando for recreational reasons. I'm driving because I have to come here for work today to report to the boss and to get with him to design some stuff and figure things out. But, given my choice, I would rather not be driving through here and traveling all this distance, and possibly having to come into contact with people, including the boss. So looking at how many cars are still here and how many people are still out, it scares me, because it means that we're still on day 0 of the quarantine in Orlando. You're like, but people are quarantining. It doesn't work unless everyone is pretty much quarantined. Now if you self-quarantine and these other people are out there doing all this crazy stuff and meeting and forming groups and stuff like that, you're going to be okay because you're not exposed to them. So don't think it's worthless. But by them continuing to spread whatever between each other, okay, it's making it prolonged. The virus, I don't know if you guys know, viruses generally, they're very weak. Viruses aren't even a full living creature. It's not even considered like a living being, a living creature. Like a virus is actually below a bacteria. Like a bacteria is an actual living creature, okay? A virus, on the other hand, is like a partial creature that has to invade a living cell and then mutate that cell, take it over, and then use the cell to reproduce even more, okay? So a virus is extremely weak and can actually die pretty fast for the most part once it leaves a host. And it reproduces really, really fast. That's the problem. And if you want to know how viruses reproduce really fast, they pretty much keep doubling every so many minutes or hours or whatever. They basically, 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16, 16 becomes 32, 32 becomes 64, 64 becomes 128, 128 becomes 256, 256 becomes 512, 512 becomes 1024, and so on. That's how fast viruses reproduce, and that's how fast people are contaminating each other. So that's why, quarantining is actually the best thing that people could do. Now, I did, if you didn't see my video about the heat and stuff, maybe worth watching. If you're showing some symptoms and aren't getting any help or anything from, the doctors, because a lot of them are just telling people to stay home and just take lots of fluids. I would say treat yourself like you would a cold or a flu. But if stuff's not working, you might try the steam treatment that I showed a couple yesterday or the day before, where you basically are breathing steam. Or take a hot steam bath, get steam up your nostril, because coronavirus apparently doesn't like heat. Don't burn yourself doing it, but supposedly 132 degrees is all it takes to kill the coronavirus. And, and if you have steam and stuff up there, your nose will run, and then you can just blow it away and, flush it down the toilet or out the trash or whatever. So, just something to do. I know that since I've done it, I feel a lot better. And I had a viewer, I don't know if it was a viewer or a reader on the Living in a Van channel, said that they had really bad pneumonia and the doctors couldn't really do anything to help them, and they decided to try it because they were, at wit's end. And they added some of the Vicks vapor rub into their water mixture, and they did it, and now they feel a lot better. It fixed. They had pneumonia. They didn't have the coronavirus. But see, here's the problem. Pneumonia and stuff is one of those things that develop when you have the flu or even the virus. It could potentially become like pneumonia. That's why it's a breathing issue. Pneumonia, your lungs start to fill up with solids, starts to fill up with liquids and stuff, so you can't breathe. It doesn't hold air. And that's why one of the symptoms is shortness of breath. People cannot breathe. So, being able to keep your sinuses cleared is one way to combat it, because that's how it enters, and that's where it kind of wants to live. It starts with your sinuses and then develops liquid into your lungs, and that's when people start dying. They can't breathe. They just don't breathe. Can't breathe. Anyhow, I do have to sign out because I got to make sure my GPS is working so that I can get to where I need to go. But if this is what Orlando looks like on quarantine, we are doomed. If all the cities in America look like this on quarantine, we are in serious shit. America's gonna wipe itself out. Because for being under quarantine, I don't know if you saw images where they showed what it looks like in China when they were under quarantine, or Italy under quarantine, or Spain, Barcelona under quarantine. There are no cars, no people, no nothing. This is America under quarantine, and it looks like another regular day. Maybe less traffic than normal, but I would say only like half the traffic. But this, to me, doesn't look like under quarantine. So, I think we're in serious trouble. Anyhow, I will report to you guys later. I do have to sign out because I do need to get the GPS up. I hope you're all managing to stay safe. And if you are under quarantine, try to stay under quarantine. If you're a van dweller, try not to do what I'm having to do right here, which is travel through with a bunch of other people, which is terrible. This is just crazy. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye now.